media briefing yesterday, KwaZulu-Natal Premier Sihle Zikalala warned of the possibility of another hard lockdown if people continued to flout social distancing regulations and don't change their reckless behavior. This as concerns of a second wave continue to mount. He joins us now to unpack this. Premier, good evening and thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, and thanks for having us in your program in the newsroom. Thanks a lot.
Now, Premier, your comments yesterday during your address, warning of a possibility of government being forced to go back to a hard lockdown has got many asking questions, but also we've seen the Minister of Health also warning of a second surge. Are you predicting a second wave in the province?
We are seeing the fluctuation of numbers in a way that is very concerning. 1 week you will see numbers stabilizing, but thereafter you will see the numbers, the surge going up, which is becoming a serious problem. And this is quite worrying when you compare that with the behavior of the people. If you see a number of people are beginning to roam around the street without wearing masks. And in some cases, you will see events and parties. All of those things are not going to help us, but are going to exacerbate the situation.
Does this give you a picture then, Premier, of police enforcement not being effective? Because we are still under the state of national disaster, and there are still regulations that are in place, particularly under lockdown level 1, as far as ensuring that all protocols are observed.
While I fully agree with you, police must do their work. They must be able to address and ensure that they arrest those who are undermining regulation. However, police can't be all over, and they cannot be in each and every household. And that's why we have always, as government, emphasized the issue of behavioral change. And therefore, it is up to us as individual citizens of the country to embrace this call of behavioral change and follow protocols as they are.
Is the Premier merely sounding a concern here, or are you seriously considering a possibility of a lockdown? And the question why I'm asking that is because we've seen how expensive a lockdown has been for the country. Can the country really afford to go to a lockdown?
We don't think we've reached a point where we can go to a stricter lockdown, but we need to emphasize and send a message that the COVID-19 is still there, it is with us. We all need to ensure that we prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Now, you're saying in many instances you would swear that there was no COVID-19 because people are just simply not wearing masks, let alone the fact that we are still under a lockdown. Looking at what you're seeing happening right now in the province, what could be the steps that we would need to take? You know, say we've got various approaches here, mitigation, we could suppress. We could of course go under the lockdown. But what could be the steps that we could take?
Well, the steps we are taking is to engage on a mass awareness campaign to ensure that we educate people about the pandemic. But secondly, we are going to ensure enforcement and that it is improved and patrolled. Thirdly, we will be engaging with various sectors, that especially those that are dealing with economic activities, especially your liquor outlets and others, to ensure that they preserve this call we are making.
Now, the operation here, Ukaimulao, in the city of Johannesburg, proving with hardcore evidence of the reckless trading of some establishments, especially when it comes to the consumption of alcohol. Some of these establishments actually going beyond the number that is required in the establishment, but not only that, trading over the hours that have been prescribed. Are you seeing similar incidents happening in the province?
Yes, alcohol outlets are part of areas that are spreading. And in some cases, you would see people even posting in social media the pictures where they are drinking, seated down in liquor outlets, and without even social distancing and without masks and all of those challenges. And that's why we then say it is important that we educate people, but we also enforce regulations, especially in areas that are engaged in such activities like selling of liquor and others.
Now, looking at past epidemics of this nature and how the cycles happen, experts are saying, well, a second wave is inevitable. Generally, this does happen. And when we're looking at what's happening elsewhere in the world, the globe, numerous countries battling right now to cope with the resurgence of cases of COVID-19. How is the province on that score, should indeed a second wave hit? Will the health system be able to hold? Do you have in place the ability to track and trace? Do you have in place the ability to isolate those who would have been infected?
Yes, do have the capacity, and I think we have the capacity to even ensure that we quarantine and safe isolate. We are continuing with the work on community screening, which is taking place throughout the province. But community screening is also depending on people being reliable and honest to provide accurate responses when the screening process is taking place. So this is essentially about us as South Africans. We must cooperate, we must improve on our conduct so that we cap the spread of this virus.
I read a line from your statement there, if I may, Premier. You're saying we want to warn liquor outlets which do not abide with the national lockdown regulation that we are coming for them. What does that mean?
Yes, outlets that are undermining regulations, they're going to face the music. We will be all out, we are going to deal with them, and we are not going even to fail to withdraw licenses where it's necessary. So we are going to be very strict. We cannot allow people to have enjoyment to enjoy for today, but then the next day we've got the spread of the virus pushing out to the hard lockdown. So we must do everything possible and necessary to avert that situation.
Premier, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on the Newsfeed Late Night. The Premier there of KwaZulu-Natal, Sihle Zikalala, saying, well, liquor outlets that are not observing the regulations, watch out, we are on our way. We're going to clamp down very heavy on you. We won't even be afraid to take away your licenses.